Mohamad Elmasry, Chair and Associate Professor in the Media and Cultural Studies Programme at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Good to have you with us. The Egyptian media have been portraying the protests as the work of a small minority. Is that the case?
Well, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Egypt's president, effectively banned opinion polls several years ago. So we don't know scientifically how popular or unpopular he is. We do know that back at the height of his popularity, immediately after the coup, he was only favored by about half of Egyptians. He was about on par. His approval rating was about on par with Mohammed Morsi, the man he ousted in the coup. So while Sisi has tried to project an image of absolute popularity, suggesting that the entire nation is behind him, that simply is not the case. Anecdotal evidence would suggest, as some of your lead-up was saying, that more and more Egyptians are angry with the government. There's a lot of discontent. People are upset not only about the authoritarian measures that the government has taken, mass killings, mass arrests, draconian legislation, but also about the economy. Sisi's economic measures have failed for the most part. 60% of Egyptians live on less than $3.50 a day and are very vulnerable. And that situation does not seem to be alleviating itself. So there's a lot of anger and discontent. And I expect that what we've seen over the last few weeks is the beginning of a new period of protest in Egypt, not the end.
So that is what I wanted to ask you about, how far these protests may gain traction, because we've seen something like, or at least human rights groups are saying, about 2,000 people have been arrested since these anti-government protests began. And a lot of Egyptian people do live in fear of the security forces, of persecution and of imprisonment.
Yeah, I mean, I have more questions than answers, frankly. I think it's been surprising to a lot of people, including me, that so many Egyptians have been willing to risk their lives over these past 10 days or so by going out into the streets. Remember that Sisi massacred hundreds of unarmed protesters back in 2013. So Egyptians are quite literally risking their lives. And as you mentioned, people are scared, and rightfully so. Having said that, there are a lot of other variables at play here. I mentioned some of them: the economy, the discontent, the anger that so many people are feeling. And what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is that a barrier of fear has been broken. No one would have thought, 30 days ago, that Egyptians might hit the streets for another round of protests. But that's what we've gotten, instigated by these corruption videos released by Muhammad Ali. So we just have to wait and see. Muhammad Ali is going to continue to call for protests. Activists on the ground will continue to participate at one level or another. The question is, how large will the protests be, and how sustained can the protest movement become?
Indeed. Mohamad, thank you. Mohamad Elmasry there.